In today's world, public perception can make or break a brand. So who is responsible for telling your organization's story? What are the most efficient ways to deliver a message? And how do you evaluate whether or not your communication was effective? I'm Mark Edwards, Communication Specialist with Oakland Schools. We'll explore those topics and more in this episode of Educationally Speaking. In each episode, we focus on important and engaging topics related to everything education. If this is your first time listening, I appreciate you tuning in. Please follow Oakland Schools on social media and engage with us. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. Make sure to tell a friend and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Let's begin. In this very special episode, I am joined by Sheri Stewart, Director of Communications for Oakland Schools. I say that this is very special because Sheri and I work together every day as she is my direct supervisor, and we're always coming up with new ways to communicate. But what we hope to leave you with is some nuggets of knowledge so you can better communicate and tell your organization's story. Sheri, thanks for taking some time to be here today.
Thank you, Mark. It's good to join you today for this special podcast.
Absolutely. Your life's work, it has been focused on communication. When did you fall in love with the art of storytelling?
You know, I think it was many, many years ago. As I will say, as even a child, I loved stories. I loved reading stories. I loved telling stories. And so it just kind of evolved from there. I worked at an automotive company many years ago, telling stories there. And so this position that I'm in now is just a culmination of that. I've spent time in the newsroom as a news director. I've spent time as a radio news reporter, broadcast reporter. So I've basically been telling stories most of my career. And so I just love the art of storytelling. I call it the art of storytelling. And I do passionately believe that everybody has a story to tell. And certainly in education, we've got some great stories to share.
We definitely do. I think if you can tell a good story, it's like composing a good piece of music. Your audience is going to be engaged, and they may come back to listen to it again, read it again, watch it again, whatever the case may be. Do you have a favorite character, setting? What stands out to you most about storytelling?
You know, Mark, I really, I will say when I spent time in the newsroom, I really enjoyed spending time on those basic human interest stories, those stories that really tugged at the heartstrings. I really enjoyed telling those types of stories. And I believe that we mostly connect around stories that have some type of emotional tie. I believe that that's what connects us as individuals. We all are happy at times. We are all sad at times. We're all disappointed. So we all have that commonality. And I believe when you focus on stories, or if you tell a story in a way that brings that element out of that particular detail, then I believe that that's when people really connect, is through the emotions, because we all have them.
Definitely. So that's a key ingredient, I would say, if you could connect that to a story, emotion. I think we're all very human.
Yeah, we are human. We are that.
Have just different. We bring different values. We bring different experiences, uniqueness to stories. So I think, again, and I agree with you, that everyone does have a story to tell.
Yeah, and I will also add this. I mean, I believe that a great story always has certainly a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so, but as you're telling that story, if we're able to connect the part of the story where we can all appreciate. So we want to see students excel. Everybody can get excited about that. We can get excited about somebody getting a promotion or getting a great job. All those things that we can all identify with, although we may have different backgrounds, but there are certain similarities that we celebrate. And bringing that out in storytelling, I think, is just a wonderful, wonderful thing to do.
Those common themes of life.
Exactly.
So we live in a digital information age where people are oversaturated and bombarded with thousands of messages each and every day through different modes of communication. So what tips could you, Sheri, share regarding crafting clear and concise content that can be delivered to a target audience?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. And you know, as we work together every day, we do this essentially every day. So basically what we want to do is identify our audience, right? where is our audience on social, because that's where we share a lot of our content, and what is the messaging? What do we want the outcome of that to be? And that, if we were talking only to public relations professionals, we will be saying we follow the RPI process, which is the research, planning, implementation, and evaluation of all the work that we do. But for this discussion that we're having, certainly it is, again, our audience. Where are they? And what is the message? What do we want the outcome to be? So do we want it to be changed behavior? Are we just trying to inform people? So those are the types of things that we look at when we're deciding what type of message to share, what's the best platform for sharing that message. That's what we're looking at.
And so really it's keeping it simple. It's going back to basics. Mm-hmm. Are you informing? Are you educating and persuading? And if you're a communication specialist or you want to be in this communication arena, mm-hmm. you have to know that. So.
Right.
So I'm joined by my boss, Sheri Stewart, Director of Communications for Oakland Schools. And when we come back, I want to talk about you recently presenting in Chicago at the national level. We will be right back. Do you have a show idea, question, or comment? Or do you want to get recognized as Listener of the Month? If so, we would love to hear from you. Drop us a line at educationallyspeaking@oakland.k12.mi.us. That is educationallyspeaking@oakland.k12.mi.us. Calling all motivated high school students enrolled in an Oakland County school district. The Oakland County Accelerated College Experience may be the right fit for you. Students are accepted into the Oakland ACE program, and you can earn as much as an associate's degree or 60 credits for transfer. There is no cost or fees to the student or family for tuition, books, or any other required materials. Visit oaklandace.org for more information. Welcome back to Educationally Speaking. I'm your host, Mark Edwards, and I'm joined by Sheri Stewart, Director of Communications for Oakland Schools. Sheri, earlier this month, you presented at the National School Public Relations Conference in Chicago. Tell us more about that experience.
Well, yes, Mark, and I believe you were there too,
I
right?
was.
We had a
it was great.
wonderful time at Inspira.
So much information.
Yeah, it was just, it was actually, I would say it was actually overwhelming, but it was overwhelming in a good way. So lots of wonderful information. It was at the National School Public Relations Association Conference, for those that may not know that acronym. And it was just a wonderful experience. So as you say, I did have an opportunity to present with one of my PR colleagues on the other side of the state, and that would have been Ben Kalb. He is the Director of Communications for the Muskegon area ISD. So it was a great opportunity to collaborate with him. And so we presented on a topic, we titled it, Ditching Deficits to Reclaim the Narrative. And so, again, all about storytelling.
There's more to it than that, I know that.
Yeah, all about storytelling, of course, but shifting the narrative around how we talk about education. And so we want to amplify the good things that are happening in education and drown out, if you will, or move away from the negative talk around education. There are so many wonderful and impactful stories and that need to be told, but in order to do that, I believe that we as communicators should be the driving force in terms of how we talk about education, and that really essentially is what our presentation centered on.
Well, there is so much, not only in the classroom with academics, but our students are out here, they're in the community, they're representing communities in theater and sports and music and dance, and so you have the curriculum piece of it, you have the enrichment piece of it, and who better to highlight and really champion than our students and our kids who are the future.
Absolutely, they are. And so we, for our presentation, we kind of took a line from Joe Sanfilippo. He's a superintendent at Fall Creek School District in Fall Creek, Wisconsin, and he has a huge social media following. And one of the things he says is people aren't going to change the way they talk about schools until we start changing the way we talk about schools. And a lot of the content that Ben and I shared for that presentation in Chicago basically centered around that concept, is that people will start talking about it differently when we start talking about it differently. So I'm really excited about it.
Word of mouth communication is still very important, even in 2022.
Right, exactly.
So you mentioned Superintendent Sanfilippo, and if you're our audience listening, you need to Google this gentleman. He is pretty dynamic. He's fun, he's entertaining, but he's a school leader without all the ego, and he just really connects with his audience. He connects with his community. And in this particular video that Sheri referenced, he spoke about his child hitting a home run in baseball and saying, "Yay me," and celebrating that moment. And that's exactly what we need to do as educators. We need to celebrate each other's wins and make each other the heroes, because each and every day teachers are doing great things in their building and in their communities, and it's about time that we start celebrating and teachers start celebrating one another. So thank you to all the teachers out there listening. Continue to do the great work that you're doing. So I've always believed that everyone within a school community can contribute as brand ambassadors, if you will. Please explain, Sheri, how employees and stakeholders within a community can help with that whole storytelling process and be part of the narrative.
That's a great question, Mark. Really appreciate that. You know, here at Oakland Schools, I believe we can just start internally. So we know that here we have just a wonderful group of consultants that are in the districts. They do some amazing work, and they're a great source for stories that they can bring back to us from the district. So for those listening, I would just start internally. What's happening in the classrooms? Do you have other counselors or other consultants that you are engaging with? Just see internally what's happening. And then also, if you have a communications team, reach into your communications team and find out what they're working on, or as we were talking, pitch a story to them and see, hey, this is what we're working on in our district. This is what's happening in the classroom. What do you think about this? Is this an opportunity that we can pitch this to the media? Is this something where we can launch a social media campaign to further amplify this story? So I would just start internally. There's some huge opportunities internally.
We're definitely always relying on our colleagues here at Oakland Schools, and we can't know everything that's going on.
Right.
So like Sheri said, if you're part of a district, send in pictures and captions just to help tell that story and tell that narrative that can be simply shared out. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be very simple and very easy.
Right.
The written and spoken word definitely hold power. What are some do's and don'ts that can help our audience craft their messages?
Well, sure, Mark. What I will do is I'll lean back into that presentation at the INSPIR conference, and this is some of the deficit language that we recommended that people try to avoid when we're trying to tell our story. So, for example, instead of just saying, "I'm only" or "I'm just," how about very affirmative, "We are" or "I am." Another example is instead of "What problems are we facing?" what opportunities do we see? That may be another way to shift that narrative. Instead of using language that calls students at-risk students, how about calling them emerging scholars?
Definitely. So just putting that positive twist and positive self-talk on whatever it is that you're saying, whether it's about yourself or about your students. So again, an easy way to shift this narrative. Can you inform our listeners of any tools or tricks of the trade that make your life easier as a professional communicator?
Oh, absolutely. And again, we do this pretty much every day working together, Mark. So we know that there are some great social scheduling tools that we use, and I won't name any specific one because there's a ton of them out there, and they all pretty much work the same. It's pretty much what you like and what the outcome that you really want, what budget you have. You always have to consider that, of course. But those tools are very useful to us, and we know as communicators that the best thing that we can always be doing is evaluating our work to see if what we're doing is making an impact. So again, that goes back to, as I said earlier, that research. What research do we have to support what we're doing, and then do we have the right measurement tools in place to provide us with that data? So that's key. And again, those tools are out there, pretty easily accessible. So it's always good to have a good measurement tool.
Definitely. One of my favorites are our media monitoring tools that we use to keep an eye on what's going on, not only here at Oakland Schools, but around our county, state, federal level. It just keeps us in the know of everything education.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those tools, we read these reports just about every morning to see, what mentions we have in the media, social media sentiment. There's tools that measure that, and all that is important to see how your message is being received and what actually people are saying about you. It's always good to see and know what people are saying about you, certainly in this business.
Perception matters.
Absolutely.
And that takes me to my next question. So what are some simple ways to evaluate the pieces of communication that you've sent out, whether it's an email, a newsletter, a social media post? How do we evaluate that work?
Well, I think, again, that one would go back to the social media monitoring that we do. That's really key. We get a report 2 or 3 times a day here in terms of the mentions, whether it's online. We get a report of any broadcast coverage that we've received, and that's always key because we always like to see that. And I love to see.
Share it.
Yeah, exactly, and share it. And I love to see our name in lights, if you will. So I'm always excited when we get a media request, when we pitch to the media and they are interested in our story idea. We always want to see that, whether it comes out in a broadcast form or whether it comes online digitally or if it's in the print form.
It's
so there's
always exciting.
It
no
is always
what. It
exciting. Yeah, it never gets old. I love how you say that. It never gets old because there are some great stories happening in our district, some great stories happening here at the ISD, and I am fully excited to be a part of that and helping to further amplify the great messages that we have here.
One thing I've loved with creating our newsletters and sending them out to our audiences is seeing the read rate and how many people actually open rate.
Exactly.
And it's pretty high at about 50 to 60% typically, so that's pretty good.
Well,
that's
fantastic.
Way to
I think,
evaluate.
what the open rate is about? It's about 20 or 30%. Yeah,
technically that would be good. So we're blowing that out of the water.
We're doing pretty good there, my friend.
So before we do wrap up, I just wanted to know if there's anything else that I may have missed that you'd like to share with our audience in terms of communication and storytelling.
I would just remind everyone that we all have a story to share. We all have a story to tell, not just one. We all have several, and I think it's just getting more comfortable with reaching out maybe internally to your communications team or working with your stakeholders, whatever district you're in or business you're in, to see if there is an opportunity. There always is an opportunity. It's just being able to identify what will work best for you. But championing your story, I think that is key, is that there are so many great social media platforms that there's no cost to be on most of these platforms. There's a unique opportunity to share your story to every audience. So
free and convenient ways to get that message out there and to get that story out there and to build that brand up.
Yeah, and I will add this too. I think sometimes people may think that you have to be on every social media platform. That is not true. You just want to be where your audience is. So if most of your audience is on one particular platform, then be on that platform.
And do that well,
And do that well, exactly. If it's only that one, that's fine. Do that one and do it well. And then as you grow and expand, you can add others. So you don't have to be all over every social media platform. Just be where your audience is.
I think there's a misconception of that because there are so many tools and so many outlets that can be overwhelming.
It is.
You just have to pick and choose and to be okay with what you're doing too, and to enjoy what you're doing. And again, just champion those people in your organization, champion the teachers and the students, and if you focus on them, everything else kind of will take care of itself.
Yeah, and be consistent. Yeah, be consistent. People notice consistency.
Definitely.
People, just as they notice inconsistency, and what the perception is with that is that you're not that serious about it, but they notice consistency, and that's why we have a consistent posting schedule as we, with our social media. So those are some of the nuggets that I would leave our audience.
So if you are listening and you're out there listening, whether you're on Anchor FM or if you're on Spotify, and you need some communication guidance, we are here to help. You can email us, find us online, and we're here to help you. So thank you so much, Sheri, for being our guest today. I'd like to say hello and thank you to everyone listening on 89.5 WAHS, 89.3 Lakes FM, and radio CMLF.org. Remember, you can download the Educationally Speaking podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Are you a parent or guardian of a young child? If so, our early childhood team works collaboratively with Oakland County schools, families, and communities to develop a systematic approach to support the development and academic achievement of all children from birth to kindergarten. If you or someone you know is interested in free preschool, call 1-844-456-5432. That's 1-844-456-5432. I'd like to thank Sheri Stewart, Director of Communications for Oakland Schools, for being our guest today. This podcast was brought to you by Oakland Schools Intermediate School District's Communication Services and is produced by Media Production and Distance Learning Manager Mark Hansen. Oakland Schools is a regional service agency in Oakland County, Michigan that offers support services to school personnel which are better delivered regionally and provide cost, size, and quality advantages to those we serve. You can find all episodes of Educationally Speaking on our Oakland Schools website at oakland.k12.mi.us and Anchor FM. We hope you will continue to tune in as we discuss topics that affect every student every day.